we're going to look at running a Remix app as a Unikernel. I wanted to walk you guys through this one just because it takes a little bit more work to kind of get it up and running versus what you might be used to with just a normal app, and I'll show you why. All right, so we're on the remix.run tutorial. This is what I found. Heads up, I'm not really a JavaScript person, so I might be doing something stupid or something that you would think that I should do differently. But I'm just kind of following this tutorial and looking at dependencies of Node and npm and so forth. So let's pop into here. What you can see is I went ahead and I walked through, and I'm running it locally outside of a Unikernel, right? So it's running here. It's listening on 3000. So we're going to go ahead and pop open. Let's go ahead and pop open links, and we'll see if we can pull it up. Okay, so it looks like this is our website. This is a text browser because I'm SSH'd into another machine at the moment. But you can kind of see that it's working, right? All right, so that's great. But what if we want to run it in a Unikernel? So, what I would normally do is I see Node and I see the version that I have locally here. Sometimes you would use a package, like you would do an ops package load, maybe /node. But in this case, we're just gonna use the version that I have installed because that's the version I was using when I built this Remix app, and it's pretty important to keep your dependencies kind of close to the same, right? So we're just going to do this ops run user bin node because that's the actual program that we're going to run. Node interpreter is the actual file here, and apparently I can't spell. So we're going to do that. We're going to pop open I guess 3000, and we're going to see what happens because we don't know what's going to happen. Right? Okay. Well. This actually is a different error. Let's use the nightly. So it did run, but it exited pretty quickly. Why? Because we didn't really pass it anything, right? All we did was do node, and that's it. So let's go ahead and actually start making this into a real thing. So let's make a little config JSON here, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, args, we want to run npm, right? So how did we start? So we did npm run dev. All right, so obviously I've already done this, right? So I kind of know what to do, but in this case, npm is actually not a binary, it's a script, and we can look at that to kind of see. And this symlinks over to the script lib node modules npm bin npm-cli.js. So that's the actual script that we're running. It's not the actual program. The actual program is our node program, right? You can tell because it says elf, right? It's an actual real executable file. So in our args, what we're going to do here is basically mimic the npm run dev. So let's pop into our config JSON, and we'll start again. So args equals the actual script of this, and all right. So now we have this. Okay, well that's better than where we were. So let's go ahead and run it again and see what happens. This is how we go about building packages, by the way. Node-n port 3000. All right, so we're still not really doing anything, right? Because we didn't pass in the config JSON. Okay, so now we're actually loading something up in JavaScript land, right? But we're getting this weird error. It says, hey, I can't find the module, right? Well, it can't find the module because we didn't load anything onto the Unikernel. All we did was say, hey, you should have it here. So let's go ahead and add that because it's kind of pointless to request something if you don't have it. What we're going to do is let's go ahead and add some directories here. So we'll add node modules. which is in our local thing. Let's go ahead and add everything else that we think is necessary here. So add in Prisma and so forth. We'll add in user, all this good stuff, comma there. And the way I kind of figured all this was I figured most everything in this folder needs to be in anyways, but then I also looked at the Docker file and I just kind of I was like, okay, well, they copied that over. It's probably necessary. You know, they did all this. It's probably necessary. So it's pretty basic when you look at it. So we have that, and then let's add some more stuff. So we have our dirs. Let's add in files. So we want to add in like package JSON, and we want to add in this .env because I think that's necessary. And then we're going to add in something else. This is a little trick that I use sometimes. We do this map dirs. And map dirs, what it does is basically copies recursively entire folder over, but it puts it in the exact same location that you would expect it to be. So in this case, what we want to do is we want the entire user lib node modules npm, and we're going to say, hey, glob all that over, and then put it in the exact same location, essentially. Now you can copy this over, and that works. But this is just, I don't know, easier to manage if you're not using a package, I think. And we need a comma if we're adding something else. All right, so we have that. Great. And we have our build. We've put it in the files. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's look at running it again. So we go back up, see if it can find. All right, so it says I have invalid character up to map dirs. Because this is missing comma. You can run this through like a JSON lint to verify that it's actually going to work, right? Okay. So this is what live coding looks like. You can't type, you can't lint your JSON, you can't do anything. Okay. So now, so it's saying there is no user, and I got kind of ahead of myself. So I'm going to go ahead and take out this little user folder just to show you what we run into. All right. So now it's going to pop up, and it's going to sit there, and it's going to eventually complain. Okay, so boot it up, and guess what? It still can't find what we want, right? Because I mapped it into the wrong location. Node modules npm. Okay, let's see if Oh, so I see what we're doing here. Our args need to change here. The .lib node modules was indeed where npm was locally, but again, we mapped it. So we actually don't want this anymore, right? Now we want it to be like, so what we're looking at is the npm that we're actually using is actually calling out to remix -run. So if you look at the npm command, it actually, this npm build, it actually ends up calling this instead. So node modules at remix-run serve dist dist/cli.js. So if you had just ran the npm build instead, what you would have found was it tries to fork out and then runs a subcommand underneath it. So all these different times that you'll see, like Python does this a lot too. You'll see in Python apps and JavaScript apps where you run one command, but then it shells out and runs a completely different command. So we don't support that in unikernels. That's a security hazard. It's a code smell. Makes things less performant. We just say, hey, call what you intend to call. We know it's going to run something. Just do that. Pass whatever you need to make it happen. And so this is the actual command that we end up running. Is this node modules remix run serve dist clee js build. So let's run it again. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit closer, right? We can see that remix app, it started up, it's trying to listen, and then it complains about Prisma. Okay, well, Prisma is the ORM that remix comes with by default, and it's saying, hey, this library is corrupt. Okay, well, that's kind of weird. What does that even mean? Well, I'll show you what it means. Essentially, what happens is this is a library that gets loaded dynamically. So you'll find this in scripting languages every now and then. And if you don't have the library loaded, it doesn't know where to load it. And in this case, it didn't actually load it into the unikernel because we didn't tell it to. Now you're saying, wait a minute, Ian, I saw you included the node modules, and that's inside node modules, and you're right. But we'll find out what else is wrong. So let's figure out where this library is anyways. So let's just do, dash name, and we'll do a so.node, because I want to make sure that not only this library in question is okay, but maybe there's other libraries that we're not aware of. So let's just go ahead and find any of them in this project. As you can see, it's just that Prism one. Okay, well, let's go ahead and figure out why is this library loading in Linux right now, but it's not loading in the unikernel. So we'll use LDD for that. Now, ops uses a form of LDD, not LDD itself, but it does the same thing. So whenever we do stuff like user bin /node, ops will find all these libraries and it'll go ahead and load it up automatically because we know that they're necessary. But in this case, we didn't know that this is necessary until it's actually ran at runtime. So we'll do LDD, node modules, Prism client, libquery engine, blah, 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 .node. All right, so this is interesting. Now we have all these libraries, but again, since we did not tell ops, hey, go hunt down all these libraries at runtime, it's not going to load. So I'm just going to cut to the chase and tell you what the problem is. The problem is that these two libraries, if you notice the rest of these, they're more or less there, but these two are not. And so what we need to do is basically, copy them over. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. We're going to do make dir user lib. So you remember seeing that directory of user in my config JSON. And then I'm just going to copy these over, right? I'm just going to do this. Copy, and then copy. Now, generally speaking, I need to copy these others over as well, but just, if you look really quickly, I think most of these are already going to be loaded. Librt should be there. You know what? We can just, if we don't see it in that first list, we can just copy it over too. It's not the end of the world. If we accidentally copy one over and we already found it and loaded it, ops will just say, hey, you already did this, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. So libm, we want to take that over to libdl. I don't see, oh, there it is. And then libc obviously is going to be there. All right, so I think we got all the ones that we weren't there. Let's go ahead and add this user back in. All right, so we have that. And then we can try to load it again. right? So you can see there was a couple that we overwrote, which is fine. But now our app is up. So now we can go ahead and I have another window open, load it up, and our Remix app is running as a Unikernel. You use a curl to just to kind of verify here, yada yada. So a bunch of HTML. Okay, cool. So that's how you made a Remix app run as a Unikernel. And now you can kind of take this, right? You can take this disk image that we have here, and it came in at roughly half a gig, which isn't, you know, something we can control. That's what is necessary to run this app. But you can go ahead and you can do like an ops image create and, you know, deploy it to Amazon or Google or, you know, wherever you run your applications. All right. So this was a kind of an in-depth show on how to, you know, create a more complex example. You know, going forward, what I would suggest is you just create a base of this, and so you don't have to do it again. Plop it into a package, upload it to repo, and use that. But till next time, we'll catch you later. Bye.